I do think it'd be great to involve our audience in this one a little bit more because you, the audience, are also their audience. And so we were all just sitting around here during the break having a conversation about why the Warriors don't have a better home court advantage. And I know where a lot of people's brains go right away when you say that. And I kind of wonder if that's where a lot of your brains go. Sometimes when we think about home court advantage, you immediately go to the fans. Now, good gracious, I want to say this up front. It is never, ever the fans' responsibility to make the players play well.
Right.
That's not the deal. You're not going to have people running around out there making $40, $50, $60 million a year. And it's like, well, I couldn't, they were just, gosh, there's a few empty seats. Just didn't play well. That's a bunch of bull.
Well, let's just talk briefly about what makes a home court advantage.
Let's do it. And what is the fan experience? And what does cause that? And is some of it? Is it corporate? Is it just us here in the Bay Area? Is it something about the way the Chase Center is structured? Is it not true? Is it the same? I don't go to a lot of other arenas. I've been to Golden One. I've been there. I've certainly been to the one in LA a trillion times. Outside of that, other NBA arenas could certainly count them on one hand and haven't been there in some time. So maybe this is 2024 where everybody's in their suites or they've got their little hallway pass to go down into the who knows what and they're getting some sort of iced Manhattan and they're late at the third. I don't know. We were just talking about this. I'd say this directly to Joe Lacob because I don't think it's him. I don't think it's Chase. I think this is everywhere. It feels like there are 1,000 concessions, yet the line at all of them takes 40 minutes. What is that? It does. When you walk through Chase, are you like, not enough food? I'm like, there's food everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Why the hell does it take so long? And what can we do about that? I brought up the whole, you ever been to a drive-thru at an In-N-Out?
Right.
What happens? They got some guy or girl 150 yards away from the restaurant with a dealy bopper making you roll your window down. And what do you want? Pow, 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 pow. You get up to the building, bang.
Dude, they're on the street.
There's your meal.
In Alameda on Willie Stargell Drive. You can't even get off of...
They're waving you in.
Out of the Webster Tube, you turn right on Willie Stargell, and it's like, oh, this can't be the line. And then you realize, oh, my God, it's the line, and somebody's already taken my order, even though I'm 27 cars deep. But they don't do that at any arena. And I'm not just going to single out the workers at this arena because they're doing their level best. But the whole system is set up to not get you in and out, pun intended, in any real amount of time. So if you get to the third quarter, watch a game in the third quarter. You've got empty seats. Not only courtside where the people are in their suites, but half the arena is still trying to do what they do.
What do you think about that? Why? And maybe we went into a direction that's not your answer. Why don't the Warriors have a better home court advantage?
I mean, why don't the Warriors?
Yes.
Well, for one, the crowd is not as much of an oppressive factor as it was in Oakland. And there are socioeconomic factors that play into that. And I've always believed that rich people don't cheer as loud as people of lesser means. And I won't say poor people or middle-class people, but the people who are now populating Chase Center tend to have more money because it's more expensive to be there. The season tickets are more expensive. The lower-level seats are more expensive. And people who have more means tend to be passionate about things other than pro sports at that same vociferous level. You go to Oakland, in the old days of Oracle, even when prices were starting to go up, as they should, because they were a winning team, you still had that vibe of Roracle, and people would go to the game, and there would be pre-game Let's Go Warriors chants that you would hear from the parking lot as you would come in. It was a vibe, and part of being a sports fan is peer pressure. And when you have positive peer pressure as a fan, such as Let's Go Warrior chants, and everybody's wearing the gold Warrior shirts or the We Believe shirts or whatever the shirt was that they were handing out. It used to be when you get that shirt, you would have about a 95% participation level in the crowd. Now you get those shirts and it might be a third of the people.
Okay. Let me ask you a few questions though, because I think you're obviously onto something. However, I think there are some things to ask and say about that, because it's not like going to Oracle and sitting in row 5 was cheap at all. Like, not even close. So it's not like people of means weren't going to Oracle. I think that there's a lot to be said even just about acoustics. The way a building is built, that was a much tighter building than what Chase Center is.
Sure.
And that's the norm often when you make a new building. You know what I mean? Like, take the Giants building, for example. Like, that's a tighter building than what Candlestick was, but the Giants even went through a period of time, even though that thing was sold out for a while, where people are like, it's still like, and this is back in the early 2000s or whatever, it's still loud, for sure. 2010, my God, that place was on its ear, but it's also like much more well-behaved. It's much more corporate than what the Stick was. So that dynamic is, I think it's a constant. What if I threw this at you? Because you bring up sort of the socioeconomic factor. What if I just bring up what John McEnroe once upon a time said about his kids? Why do they not have the same drive for the sport that you do? His answer was affluenza. Okay? Here's what I mean by that. The Warrior fan base now, it's been fed, satisfied. That fan base that you're talking about at Oracle had never seen a title unless you'd been around for a long time.
Half our callers yesterday at the 5 o'clock hour.
There you go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
By the way, all of you, you're all on 1 month's detention.
Totally.
Don't call back. We love you, but don't call back.
I will add this, though. A lot of the fans that are at Chase Center were not fans who were at Oracle. A lot of the fans who went to Oracle
probably not
have either been priced out or have chosen not to make the trip across the bay. Because when you went to Oracle, you knew that you could either take BART or you could park in a spot where you could walk, you could tailgate, you could walk, and you could be there.
No doubt.
And I'm not going to disrespect Chase Center because I find it to be lovely and wonderful and everything that Rick Welts and company said that it would be when we went on that first ever tour before the thing was even built.
Yep.
And we went in there and we looked at the renderings and it was like, oh my God, this could be cool, but it's not easy to get to. It is appreciably more expensive. And the people that are going to this venue are different than the people that went to Oracle.
It's also a different world. Like,
exactly.
No matter what you sort of, however you see, because we've talked about it a lot, and the whole San Francisco and the pandemic, and are there people, are there not people? I don't know. Every 10, 15 years, the world's kind of different. And I completely think the whole idea, the whole process is just different. The pandemic only being one aspect of that. But all the things you're saying too. The price, the parking, the location, the pandemic, the world, the lack of attention.
Right.
And I will add, you're now a fan base that's won 4 times in the last decade. And I'm sorry. Like, I've always kind of likened it to, and you know, I hate labeling people this way, but people who do not have means, people who maybe don't have a home, people who don't know where their next meal is coming from. That person is going to be more intensely hungry than someone who just skipped lunch.
Totally.
And you get home at dinner and you're like, I'm starving. Oh my God, I'm starving. Well, not really. You're fine. And that's us now. We're the Warriors fans base and we're fine, because the worst thing that could happen is, well, we haven't won in 2 years.
Right.
That's the worst thing that could happen. So maybe maybe our feet are up a little bit too much.
Yeah, that's certainly part of it. But as far as your question about why don't they have a better home court advantage, I think a lot of that, the majority of it is not about how loud the fans are and whether or not they're chanting "Let's Go Warriors" or what they're showing during timeouts and how long the lines are at concessions and how much it costs to get there and all the rest of it, they don't have as much of a home court advantage because they're not that good. That, to me, is the most simplistic way to put it. If you look at how they are on the road and how they are at home,
but there's a better record on the road. There's a better record on the road. If they're not that good, like in other words,
not that. They're a mediocre team. Mark,
if that's the case, then a mediocre team in the NBA does not have a winning record on the road, and I can prove it to you by looking at all the other teams.
Right.
If you're a mediocre team, then that means you're kind of okay at home, and then you pretty much stink on the road.
Chicago's a great example.
Okay.
Chicago is the Warriors. 16-15 at home, 15-17 on the road.
Well, that's a real blow.
31-32.
That's a real blow to any conversation we've been having all year long, what you just said. The Chicago Bulls are the Warriors?
Basically.
Then what the hell are we talking
after
about?
62 games.
Well, then let's talk Giants.
Then let's do it.
Let's talk Giants.
Are they getting Blake Snell or not?
Chicago Bulls spent the whole month of January talking about where they were going to send their players.
Dallas, 19-15 at home, 16-13 on the road.
Yeah.
Dallas is not very good. Dallas is, so you're 4 above at home and you're 3 above on the road. I think the whole idea of a home court advantage is only assigned to a select few.
Well, I mean, Dallas has 2 pretty epic players, number one. And number 2, this may sound like I'm splitting hairs, but 19-15 feels different to me than 17-16.
It's
really
a game
does.
and a half better.
It's 4 games over versus 1 game over.
Right.
So I know what you're saying standings
it's
wise.
One game in the loss column better.
Right.
It's,
right. Well, they've played,
it's quite comparable, honestly.
I don't.
And they're dead even on the road.
Yeah. And that's a team that recently lost 5 in a row, and Warriors fans went into last night being like, we're going to catch Dallas.
Right.
No, you're not.
But now you wake up today and you realize, the sober slap in the face is not only are you not going to catch the 6, but honestly, the last 48 hours should tell you that this is probably who you are.
I don't know,
At your best, you are maybe the best in the association, but at your worst, you might lose to San Antonio in these next couple.
But you grabbed one team, and I could grab a bunch more. Like the Hawks are 16-16 at home. They're 12-18 on the road.
Yeah.
The Jazz are 19-12 at home. They're 9-23 on the road. The Rockets are 6-24 on the road. They're 21-11 at home. Like the disparity.
We can cherry pick across the board, but all I'm saying is that the Warriors are not alone.
If you're not that good, then you shouldn't be 16-13 on the road. A 16-13 team on the road means that you're home. Like you should play better at home. And I've stated this a couple of times. I just find the whole thing confusing. I'm open-minded. What's the reason? I can't dismiss what you're saying. You've brought up now, obviously, the difference in the way the fans sound from Oracle to Chase. That's totally fair. You're now bringing up, well, maybe they're just not that good. To a degree, that's fair. However, it's also a team that's played 750 basketball for the last month plus, and has moved from the 12 to the 9. And I just find that to be a team that, in theory, even though I accept both of your answers, they don't fully add up to me so that's why they're not better at home. They should be better at home. They should be all of the characteristics you've said. You should be better at home.
Well, you should be better, period, I think. And if you wanted to relate their road record to their home record, if their home record was like what Phoenix's is, 21-13. So if the Warriors, they've played 33, Phoenix has played 34. Let's say the Warriors were 20-13 at home, which would be commensurate with what Phoenix is. So then you'd be the 7 seed. You'd be 36-26. Would we think really that much different about who the Warriors are? I don't think so. I still think you look at a team that you look at their losses, they lose to bad teams, they lose to mediocre teams, they beat the occasional good team, and the old.
I can't say you're wrong. I can't say you're wrong, but I'm still going to go to bed tonight confused as to why this team is not to be relied on more when they play at Chase Center.
I also think that teams come in now to Chase Center and they don't have the same fear, and fear is not maybe the correct word, but when you come into Oracle, you would anticipate a much more rabid, active crowd and a team that would play better at home. I don't think that this current team has that inborn edge playing at Chase Center.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. And here's kind of what I mean by it. Do you remember, what I mean when I say a Steph Flurry?
Yeah.
What the Golden State Warriors would do normally at home, like this basketball team, they could be up by 6 and you're just kind of bebopping, right? Cruise to the game, like, okay, we're feeling each other. Oh, we're down 18. What the hell just happened? And that could happen in a minute 10. That doesn't happen anymore. Very rare now that the Warriors do that. And so, sure, maybe we could just explain that away in a simple term, like you've been trying to do, which is, they're not good enough to do that anymore. Maybe, Steph still looks largely, mostly, most nights like himself. We've talked a lot about the fact that there isn't an established 2. And so maybe with all the lineup changes and injuries in the in and the out and all the story of the year, they haven't been able to be together enough to build the consistency that sort of leads to that, where everybody kind of knows exactly where everybody's going to be all the time. Like, that's one thing that I've always talked about in the NBA. You like, continuity matters. Players who have played together for a long time. Well, Brandon Podziemski and Trace Jackson Davis and Chris Paul and Dario Saric have not played with these guys for a really long time. But the core has. But yeah, I don't see that as much anymore. That, to me, that's what would get the arena going, and that's what would make the Warriors so hard to beat at home. Is just like, yeah, we're playing, we're hanging around. Oh my God, we're down by 15. We were down by 3 a second ago. That characteristic is mostly gone from the Warriors, and it allows teams to stay in games, and it allows teams to do stuff like what they did last night.
And a lot of times the Curry flurry would involve other players who are also getting hot and hitting threes, and right now you've got no real cohesive rotation to where guys are getting comfortable and getting loose, and the Claymaker games come few and far between, and other teams have caught on to that reality. And you saw last night Billy Donovan multiple times where the Warriors hit back-to-back threes, timeout. We're going to call timeout, and during that 3-minute timeout, the arena grows tired, disinterested, you're on your phone, you're not as locked in on the game, and then you come back and the energy is not there, and maybe the Warriors miss a couple, and all of a sudden now Chicago goes on a run.
TJD is going to join us in 7 minutes. Let's go to Jeff in San Jose. Hi, Jeff. What you doing?
Hey, how you guys doing? Happy Friday.
Yeah, to you too.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, this year Warriors are more reliant on their young guys, and I feel like young guys, when they go on the road, they're all locked in a hotel. It's almost like they got a parent, and they're so structured when practice, etc. But when they're playing at home, everybody's coming, they live at home, right? They come from their house, and I wonder if there isn't as much focus, etc., coming literally to a home game from hanging out at home versus, again, being on the road, where everybody's together, you're mealing together, you're staying in the hotel together, and there's just that, I almost think, inherent focus that keeps those guys a little bit more locked in.
I wonder, Jeff, because basically what you're saying would be omnipresent for all teams all the time, always. So I can't say that you're wrong, but what you're saying should be true for every team all the time. So why wouldn't everybody be better on the road,
Because this team, we're now experiencing this team being reliant on young players where years past it hasn't been, so it doesn't show up. And that's why at home they've historically been obviously in this, where they've been winning these 4 championships. Their record at home is a lot better because you're dealing with, guys that have been in the league for a long time, and now you're not.
It's interesting. Yeah, Jeff, thanks. I like the rule that I've always heard and talked about and it'll come up playoff time, is that role players play so much better at home. Young players should play better at home because they're much more affected by the things that get to you when you're on the road.
Right.
Which is the heckling, the officiating, the lack of comfortability, the environment that you're not used to, all of those things. Like usually the veteran teams can handle that better. So as the Warriors become younger, they become worse at home. It feels like it should be the other way around.
Yeah, because, the new arena and like you said, the travel and the new schedule and having to get on a bus and all the rest of it should affect younger players and role players more. Why at home are you struggling to do the things that you normally would take care of if you're a good veteran team? And I can't help but look at the reality of where they are after 62 games and see, the ups and downs. They've been home, they've been road, they've been early, they've been late. And last night was kind of a bit of a sobering loss because we all were riding so high after Milwaukee. And here we go. They've turned the corner, and this is going to be the team that they're going to be. And, watch out for this Warrior team. And then Chicago, good team, playing well, and a good effort. They had the better of you for 3 quarters, and they beat you.